Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Rachel.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good.
Good.
So I've been thinking a lot lately about ethics and morals in a free society and how those two work together. And how if a society is not ethical and not moral, what the government, how the government should react to that. It's just been on my mind a lot as we see.
Can I ask a question real quick before we dive in?
Yes,
And that
yes.
is, what are ethics? What does that even mean?
It's basically doing the right thing.
Okay.
Doing the right thing. And it also kind of ties in with integrity. I was just talking with my son the other day about integrity. It's doing the right thing when no one's looking. Doing the right thing even when you maybe wouldn't get caught doing the wrong thing. It's just having a moral compass, like a Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder that tells you right and wrong, you know? And how society functions so much better when we all listen to our Jiminy Cricket. Because if we don't listen to our Jiminy Cricket and we hurt people or take their stuff, then that's when government has to step in, and government almost never makes things better, if you'll notice. I've noticed that a lot in my life. But unfortunately, if people are hurting each other, taking things and like not doing the right thing, then what are we supposed to do? And that's kind of why we have a government, to kind of make sure that rules are followed. We need, and that's a whole discussion about what rules we need
Why
to
do
have.
we have government too? It would be a whole other episode.
But it just seems to me like the more society loses sight of doing the right thing and following the golden rule, the bigger government has to get. So I've been thinking a lot about religion, and I'm not here to preach to anyone, but it just seems like in our history, when we've had societies that are very church focused and very religious, that kind of feeds into people's moral compass, and it kind of creates a community where we hold each other in check through private means, through teaching morality, through sticking to morality, and just a higher sense of doing the right thing.
Yeah, you know what else?
For reasons.
It's kind of like that too, as a family. Because I agree with you, especially, you look back, you have that, what they call like Judeo-Christian values, or whatever you want to call the religion. And then I think a family is similar, right? Where in a family, you kind of have those ethics and the good quality of like, we look out for each other, we have each other's back. And so it reminds me of that. I think one of the smallest communities is the family.
Yeah. And in the family, the parents are the government. And so if the kids are always fighting a lot, or if the kids are, sneaking cookies and breaking rules and things, then the parents have to crack down and, administer consequences. But if the kids follow the rules and do the right thing, even when their parents are not looking and there's no cookies missing, then everybody gets along a lot better, don't they?
Yeah. I have a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot as a parent.
Okay.
So you were saying do the right thing, even when their parents aren't looking. So when we say like right thing, who determines what that is as the parent? As you're setting rules and you say, okay, I want them to do the right thing. Is it, I want them to do this because if they don't do this, maybe my house will get messy? Or is it, I don't want them to do this because they will get hurt? Or is it the because I said so, type of thing that we've all done before? How do you come to that decision on your own as a parent of this is what's right?
Well, with every household, it's going to be a little bit different. Yeah. But I think at a very basic level, and this applies to countries, communities, cities, everywhere. I think in general, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. I think most of legitimate laws are based on those principles. And if you start, beating up your sister, you start, taking her Game Boy or whatever, her things, then we have a problem. But, and there's going to be other things like chores, you know. Kids are going to have chores that they're supposed to do, and if they don't do them, there might be consequences. Every house is going to have different rules.
I'm curious with your household with chores, do you give your kids allowance? Growing up, we didn't. Growing up, it was kind of like you don't get allowance for doing chores because it's part of your social contract of being a part of this family. I'm just curious what you guys do with your boys.
I can see it both ways, but in our household, the allowance that we give them is contingent upon do they do a list of chores every day. Because I personally, now I can see it from different points of view, but what we're trying to do in our house is connect work with money. I want the boys to understand that money comes from work, right? And you don't get money for doing your schoolwork, even though arguably that's your job at this age. But as far as chores, I want them to gain a work ethic, right?
There's that word again.
Yeah, ethic. And actually, my 14-year-old son, very proud of him, he very religiously did his chores every day for over a year because he wanted a gaming computer. That cost $1,400. And he did enough chores and saved up enough money to do that. And we were very proud of him and, you know, put birthday money towards it and everything. But I think it's very important for people to learn how to do the right thing so that we don't need a big government. And that's something that really concerns me as we look at states like California that have basically legalized looting stores, and you see all these videos of people robbing the corner Walgreens or CVS or the grocery store, and the state has decided that they don't want to be mean, so as long as you take less than $900 worth of stuff, we're just not going to worry about it. And then you see businesses closing down, and you see what's called a food desert. That means there's no grocery store in your neighborhood, you know? And it's really so sad because it's like a ripple effect. It's not just a matter of the government needs to get bigger in order to crack down on this kind of thing and enforce property rights, but there's no grocery store, you know? Like your society can't function if people don't have a moral compass.
So I'm curious because I think a lot of people, I think if you ask people, you know, where do you learn your ethics from? Where do those derive from? Some people will tell you public school. You know, you send your kids to school and that's where they learn what is right and what is wrong. But I think there's a lot of questions around that now, too, because we've seen a lot of political agendas and these personal beliefs go into the schools now. And so then that kind of makes you wonder, are schools the opposite of ethics? Are kids getting those ethical lessons in school? What do you think?
Well, especially when there's separation of church and state, which there should be. But where does a secular school get its sense of morals? And it's not to say that there isn't without, you know, a religion. You can certainly be a moral person without religion. I think religion helps a lot personally. It's a very good foundation. But you know, I guess the because
even if you're not religious, even if you just looked at the Bible as a really good story that I know Jordan Peterson talks about a lot, the 10 Commandments are a great start to that, you know, and maybe you don't apply it in the same way, but there's really good principles in there.
Yeah, and the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you know, and it's kind of a little disconcerting to think that a school might think that they can't teach that simply because it comes from the Bible. So what are they teaching? And I guess that's going to vary from school to school. It's going to depend on the teachers and their personalities and their background at each individual school, what a kid might pick up. And for some families, that's just not okay. So they homeschool or they go to private school.
But sometimes there's bad private schools too. It just all depends. But I think you're right. I think if you don't have that, you know, 10 Commandment mentality that don't hurt people, don't take their stuff is also a really good place to start, because that is also the same stuff that's taught there, right? You have the overlap. And so that's kind of a good, like, it bridges the gap between whether you have a secular household or a religious household or anything like that. So you have that, like, that's a really good firm foundation to start with. Obviously, there's more to it than that.
Yeah. But I mean, it concerns me a lot. I mean, we can all do our part and be moral people ourselves. Ultimately, look at the man in the mirror if you want to change the world, to quote the great Michael Jackson. But also, you know, what do we do about a society that has such moral decay? Like, what do we do about it?
And that's a good question, because I think we all have the tendency to say, well, you should all be like me, or I have the answers, you know, let me tell you how to live your life. And I've always thought the people I look up to the most, the people who influence me to be a better person, have been the people that don't preach it, they just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many people that I'll just look at the random things they do. My best friend Sloan, actually, she's just a very thoughtful person. She's the kind of person, if you're sick, will bring you like a gift basket of, you know, electrolytes and some medicine or something like that. And that's not changing the world, but just seeing her generosity makes me want to be more generous. And so I've started doing that for other people. And it's that, like, paying it forward domino effect, these little things. So I know for me, when I see people doing good things, or even just from afar, watching them do something that I think is very moral or ethical, it's refreshing, and it makes me want to be like them. And they don't even have to tell me what they're doing or tell me what they believe. I just see that, you know, and I respond to it.
So on that note, we're about to run out of time, but I want to read a quote. It's actually my email signature. I love this quote so much that I put it on my email signature, but I'm going to read it right now. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip towards an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. And that is from Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
That's nice.
I really like that quote.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how I think of how to make the world a better place, with my own morality and ethical compass. And I fall short.
Oh, yes, we all do.
But that is something to aspire to in order to help the government stay small.
And I think this is a really good, you know, I'll wrap it up here. I think this is a really good episode for families, because you can sit down and maybe you have an unspoken rule of what your family ethics are, but, like, sit down and maybe talk about, like, make your own Magna Carta, your own little, like, constitution of what these ethics and morals are that your family really stands for, and not even just what they are, but why, and how you can do those things on a daily basis. I think there's a lot of really good nuggets here to take and spark a family discussion. So I think that's really important. I think this is a great topic. So we will leave it there. And as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. We're so happy to have you with us. And until Rachel, next time, we will talk to you later.
All right. Tell your friends. Bye-bye.